Chapter 17. In panic, I tried to run, but my tail was caught. Suddenly I was free. How had that... I realized what had happened. My tail had snapped off. Looking back, I saw it, still trapped by the giant shoe. It squirmed as if it was still alive. It wiggled like a worm on a hook. The shoe lifted and flew through the air again. I shot up the side of the wall and froze in place. The giant had not seen me. It had not tried to stomp me. It had been an accident. And now my tail. No, the lizard's tail. The giant walked on, shaking the ground as it went. I focused one lizard eye on the figure. It was like trying to make sense out of one of those carnival fun mirrors. But even so, I was pretty sure it was Chapman. I watched him head down the hall, and with all my power, I ordered my lizard body to follow him. I tried not to think about the spider in my stomach, or the fact that it was still not completely dead. I tried not to think about the fact that part of my body was back on the floor, jerking like it was still alive. I just raced along after Chapman, because Chapman might reveal something that would help Tom. I planned to follow Chapman to his office. I'd hide under his desk and listen to him make phone calls. I figured sooner or later he might let something slip about the location of the yerk pool. Cassie and I had talked about it. She said it could take days of hiding in Chapman's office before we learned anything. Besides, we could only stay in a morph for 2 hours, and meanwhile I would be skipping class. Sooner or later I'd get in trouble over that. And the really funny thing is, when they catch you skipping class, you get sent to the assistant principal, Mr. Chapman. I could just imagine that scene. Sorry I skipped class, Mr. Chapman, but I've been in this lizard body watching you because I know you're a controller and part of a giant alien conspiracy to take over the Earth. I would have laughed, only lizards can't laugh, so I just followed Chapman as he marched down the hall. Suddenly he stopped. Were we at his office? I looked around as well as I could, but it didn't look like the office. The spider gave a kick in my stomach. He opened a door. It swung right over me with a big rush of air. It went just above my head as I hugged the floor. I concentrated on making sense of the sights. Wait a minute. This was the janitor's closet, a mess of mops and buckets and cleaning solutions. What was Chapman doing? He went inside. I followed, careful to stay away from the high leather walls that were his shoes. I heard a loud click. He had locked the door behind him. It was a long way up from the floor, but I could more or less see him doing things to the sink faucet. I thought he grabbed one of the hooks they used to hang up the dirty mop heads. I was pretty sure he twisted it because I could hear a squeaking sound. And to my total and complete amazement, the wall opened. There was a doorway where the wall had been. Strange smells and stranger sounds wafted up from inside the doorway. Chapman stepped through. There were stairs just inside, heading down into a purple-lit pit. From far away, as if it came from 100 miles down, I heard a faint sound. It was a scream of fear and despair. A human voice crying out in the darkness of that horrible place. "No!" the voice moaned. "No!" I knew what the scream meant. I knew what was happening. Somewhere down there, a human being was feeling the yerk slug slither inside its brain. Somewhere down there, a human being was being turned into a mindless slave of the yerks. Chapman headed down the stairs. The door closed behind him. I had found the yerk pool. It was right under my school. Chapter 18. Screams, I said. Human screams. They sounded far off, but that's what they were. My friends looked at me, all but Marco, who looked away. It was that same afternoon, right after school. We'd gone to the mall. We figured it was the best way not to look suspicious. No one thinks there's anything weird about kids hanging together at the mall. We were at a table in the food court, sharing some nachos. Ever since eating the spider, I'd had a desire to consume lots of junk food to help me forget. You were a lizard at the time, Marco pointed out. Who knows what you heard? I know, I said. I can't stand the thought of what's happening to people down there, Cassie said. She shuddered. It's sickening. We have to do something, Rachel said. Yeah, let's rush right down there, Marco said. Then it can be us screaming. I realized I had lost my appetite for nachos. Marco, you can't just ignore what's going on, Rachel said. Sure I can, he said. All I have to do is remind myself that, hey, guess what? I don't want to die. That's it then? Rachel demanded, outraged. Just whatever is best for Marco? I don't think Marco is being selfish, Cassie said. Just the opposite. He's thinking about his father, about what would happen to his dad if Marco... He's not the only one who's got people to worry about, Rachel said. I have a family. We all do. Not me, Tobias said softly. He smiled his sad, crooked smile. It's true. No one gives a rat's rear about me. I do, Rachel said. I was surprised to hear her say that. Rachel isn't exactly sentimental. Look, I said, I'm not asking anyone else to go with me, but I don't have a choice. I heard that scream today, and I know Tom is going down there tonight. He's my brother. I have to try and save him. I held out my hands, helpless. I have to do it, for Tom. I'll go with you, Tobias said, for the Andalite. There's no one else who can do anything to stop the Yerks, Rachel said. I'm scared to death just thinking about it. But I'm there. Marco looked sick. He gave me a dirty look. He shook his head. This is bad, he said. This is so bad. If it wasn't for Tom, I'd walk away. Look, Marco, you don't have to, I started to say. Oh, shut up, he snapped. You're my best friend, you jerk. Like I'm going to let you go face all this alone. I'm in. I'm in to rescue Tom. That's it. Then I'm done. Only Cassie had remained silent. She was looking dreamily off over the heads of the mall crowd. You know, back in the old days, I mean the real old days, the Africans, the early Europeans, the Native Americans, they all believed animals had spirits, and they would call on those spirits to protect them from evil. They would ask the spirit of the fox for his cunning. They'd ask the spirit of the eagle for his sight. They would ask the lion for his strength. I guess what we're doing is sort of basic. Even though it was Andalite technology that made it possible, we're still just scared little humans trying to borrow the mind of the fox and the eyes of the eagle, or the hawk, she added, smiling at Tobias, and the strength of the lion. Just like thousands of years ago, we're calling on the animals to help protect us from evil. Will their strength be enough? I wondered. I don't know, Cassie admitted solemnly. It's like all the basic forces of planet Earth are being brought into the battle. Marco rolled his eyes. Nice story, Cassie, but we're 5 normal kids, up against the Yerks. If it was a football game, who would you bet on? We're toast. Don't be so sure, Cassie said. We're fighting for Mother Earth. She has some tricks up her sleeves. Good grief, Marco said. Let's all buy Birkenstocks and go hug some trees. We all laughed, including Cassie. Cassie is right about one thing, Rachel said seriously. The only thing we have going for us is the animal morphing thing, and so far the only morphs we've acquired are a cat, a bird, a dog, a horse, and a lizard. I think we need a little more firepower. We should head for the gardens. We need to acquire more DNA from some animals that are not going to be easy to acquire. I nodded. Yeah, I don't think the hawk, horse, and lizard team is going to impress the Yerks. Rachel's right. I think we have to head to the gardens. We need to get some help from Mother Earth's toughest children. I looked to Cassie. Can you get us in? I can get in free, she said. You guys will have to pay, but I can use my mum's employee discount, so it'll be cheaper. Oh, I'm sure we could talk them into letting us in for nothing, Marco said. Just tell them we're Animorphs. Tell them we're what? Rachel asked. Idiot teenagers with a death wish, Marco said. Animorphs. I tried the word out. It sounded okay. Chapter 19. We left straight from the mall, hopping on a bus out to the gardens, which is clear across the city. On the way, I tried to catch up on my homework. I had missed a lot of classes that day, so I borrowed class notes from my friends. Rachel kept perfect notes. Tobias had terrible notes with all kinds of little drawings in the margins. It took a while before I could figure out what they were. They were buildings and people and cars, the way they looked from high up in the sky. I don't really need to go in, Tobias said as we pooled our limited cash to buy tickets. I'm happy with just my hawk morph. I don't want to be anything else. I think that's a mistake, Rachel said. Our one real weapon is the power to morph. We should acquire as many useful morphs as we can. What kind of animal morphs are going to be able to deal with Visser 3 when he turns into that big monster that ate the Andalite? I asked. There was nothing in this zoo or any other that was going to kick that big monster's butt. Marco winked. Fleas. No one can kill fleas. We'll itch him to death. I had to smile. Oh, so now you're suddenly Mr. Hopeful. No, I'm just so scared I'm getting weird, he said. I haven't done this morphing stuff. You guys all have. I'm not even a full-fledged Animorph yet. I'm still normal. I still feel normal, Cassie said. She looked troubled. Cassie, you can turn into a horse, Marco said. Very few normal kids can do that. It's different for Jake turning into a lizard. He's always been a reptile. I took a good-natured swing at Marco, but he dodged it. It was cool having Marco with us, even if he was giddy. It took about half an hour to reach the main gate of the gardens. I climbed down off the bus feeling nervous. Not at all like I usually felt going there. I mean, the gardens is just about my favorite place to go, normally. But normally, I'm not going there to get personal with dangerous animals. The main part of the gardens is rides. They have all the usual stuff, like roller coasters, which are my personal favorite, and Ferris wheels and water slides. But they also have an animal part, which is like a zoo, only cooler. They do dolphin shows, and there's this whole section where you can get close to some of the safer animals. And this monkey habitat they have is like a whole monkey city, practically. Anyway, if I were an animal and I had to be in a zoo, I'd want to be there. Cassie led us to the main building, which holds all kinds of exhibits. It has everything but the really big animals that need lots of space. Those animals are farther out, mostly, in big grassy habitats that look like parks. Parks with walls and moats and fences around them. The main building is supposed to be like a rainforest, I guess. It's where they keep animals that need to be warm all the time. There's a pathway that winds around with tall tropical trees overhead, with bushes here and there between the exhibits. Some of the exhibits are tiny, and some are really big, like the area they have for otters. It has a waterfall and a water slide for the otters to play in. We were near the otter habitat when Cassie stopped. Okay, now everyone stay together and try not to be too suspicious looking, she said. I'm taking you inside. Inside where? Marco asked. Well, the way it works is there are walkways behind all these exhibits. That's how they feed the animals and give them meds or whatever. Meds are medicines. Sorry. She pointed to an inconspicuous doorway. Anyway, we can go in through here. It was an odd change from outside to inside. 1 minute, we were in this fake rainforest. The next minute, we were in what looked like a hallway at school. Only the smell was worse. Kind of damp and moldy and musty. More like the boys' locker room. Okay, look, if any staff people stop us, the story is we're here to see my mum, Cassie said. Of course, it's so late in the afternoon, she won't be here, I hope. Because if she finds out I've been dragging 4 of my friends around back here, well, I can't be saving the world from alien invaders if I'm grounded. Hopefully there won't be many staff people here at all. We shuffled along the hallway, feeling like we definitely did not belong. Which we didn't. On either side of the main hall, there were side paths that led to the different exhibits. Unfortunately, the doorways to the exhibits just had numbers on them. I knew we'd have to rely on Cassie's knowledge to find our way around. Behind some of the doors were animals you didn't want to just walk in on. How do you guys feel about gorillas? Cassie said. She had stopped by one of the numbered doors. This is Big Jim's cage. He just came over from another zoo, so he's in his own private environment for now. He's very gentle. Slowly, it dawned on me what Cassie was saying. Oh, you mean, does one of us want to acquire his DNA? That's why we're here, Jake, Rachel pointed out. She batted her eyes at Marco. How about you, Marco? Haven't you always wanted to be a big, hairy guy? Marco didn't look like he was crazy about the idea, but I knew how to handle Marco. Maybe Marco should try something easier for his first morph, I said. You know, like a cuddly little koala or something. That did it. Koala? Marco said, giving me a dirty look. Open that door, Cassie. He hesitated. You said gentle, right? Gorillas are extremely gentle, Cassie said. Then, in a quieter voice, she added, unless you make them mad. Cassie opened her backpack. She took out an apple and handed it to Marco. Here, you just open the door. The way it's set up, none of the visitors will be able to see you unless you walk clear out into the cage. Besides, there's an extra security gate, so he can't just jump out and you can't just walk in. So we just open the door and hope Big Jim feels like eating. Behind the door was a second door of steel bars, with a little cutaway section for the handlers to shove the food through. The entire door opening was concealed behind a fake rock ledge, so it wasn't visible to the people looking into the cage. But Big Jim noticed us right away. He climbed heavily down from his perch on a rock ledge and took a good look at us through the bars. Big Jim was definitely big. He had fingers the size of my wrist. But Jim didn't seem to mind us being there. Mostly he seemed interested in Marco's apple. He looked Marco over, snorted like he wasn't impressed, and then held out his hand. Hand him the apple, Cassie directed. He wants the apple. I loved your work in King Kong vs. Godzilla, Marco told the ape. He stuck his hand through the bars and held out the apple. With surprising daintiness, the gorilla lifted the apple and began inspecting it closely. Hold his hand, I said. Yeah, right, Marco laughed. When you acquire DNA, the animal goes into a kind of trance, I said. Go ahead, grab his hand and concentrate. Marco tentatively touched the gorilla's wrist. Nice monkey. The gorilla ignored him. Big Jim was much more interested in the apple than in any of us. Concentrate, Rachel urged. Marco closed his eyes. The ape closed his eyes. This is so cool, Tobias commented. You realize that gorilla could pull Marco apart like he was a paper doll. Look at those arms. Marco opened one eye. Tobias, being terrified gets in the way of concentrating. So how about if you shut up about his arms? Suddenly, I heard a whirring sound. I looked down the hall, then back. It was one of those electric carts. Like a golf cart, it was coming towards us. Just act natural, Cassie hissed. Marco slipped out and she slammed the door on Big Jim. As long as it isn't a security guy, we're probably okay. The cart came up to us. Its driver was a man wearing a stained, tan lab coat over his jeans. In the back of the cart were two large white plastic buckets full of something brown and horrible smelling. Hey, you're Cassie, right? The doc's kid? How's it going? Fine, Cassie said. She waved casually, and the man drove right on past. That was easy, Rachel said. He didn't even seem to care that we're back here. Well, where next? Cassie wondered. We were at a four-way corner. There were blank, white-painted hallways in all directions. An electric golf cart was parked there too. What are we near? I asked. Cassie thought for a moment. Okay, that walkway leads to the outer exhibits. That one leads to the offices and storage facility. Those two go around the main building exhibits. We're close to, let's see, bats and snakes that way, the jaguar and the dolphin tank that way. Rachel started down the hallway to our right. Dolphins? I love dolphins. Wait, Cassie said, trotting after her. What are we going to do with dolphin morphs? I think we should go out to the big exhibits, Marco said. Let's get serious about this. We need firepower. Come on. Let's stick together, I said, as Marco started down the hall. I reached out to grab him before he got too far away. And that's when the voice yelled, Hey! Hey you! What are you kids doing back here? I saw a guy in a brown uniform. Security! Cassie yelped. Oh man, they'll take us all into the office. They'll call my mum. I do not want to explain this to her. Split up, I said, trying to sound like a leader. Just like at the construction site. One guy can't get us all. That guy looks like my grandfather, Rachel said. Not like that hawk Bajir that was after us. You kids, hold on! Oh man, Cassie said. With that, she took off down one hallway. Rachel and Tobias went after her. Marco was already 20 yards down the other hall, the one that led out to the large exhibits. I ran to catch up. The guard reached the corner. I saw him glance toward Tobias and the girls. Then he looked at me and Marco. I guess Marco and I looked more suspicious because he chose us. Stop! You kids better stop! Let's grab the golf cart, Marco said. Steal a golf cart? Well, if we don't take it, the guard will. Good point. We jumped in the cart. Marco slid behind the wheel. He turned the key to on. He looked at me. Just like driving bumper cars, right? Only you try not to hit anything. He put his foot down on the pedal. The electric motor made a whirring sound, and we took off. Straight toward the wall. Bam! Hey, try steering, I yelled. We backed up and took off again. We picked up speed. Enough to pull away from the guard, but when I looked back, he was still jogging after us. He's going to have a heart attack, I said. Which way? What? Which way? I turned around to face forward. We had reached a T-corner. Right, I yelled. Naturally, Marco turned left. I nearly fell out. Almost immediately, we reached another corner. This time, Marco did choose right, and I did fall out of the cart. I hit the linoleum and rolled. Then I was up and racing to catch the cart. What are you doing? Marco demanded when he saw me. Quit playing around. I just gave him a dirty look and climbed back in. I think we lost the guard, Marco said. I'm fine, thanks for asking, I said. Just a few bruises, maybe a cracked skull, nothing serious. Where do you think we are? I think we are in the longest tunnel I've ever seen, I said. It was more and more like a tunnel now. The floor was still linoleum and the walls were still whitewashed, but the lights were getting more spread out, so you definitely had the feeling you were underground. I wonder if they caught the others, Marco said. Now do you see why it's crazy to think we can beat the Yerks? I mean, come on, we can barely beat zoo security. We haven't beat anyone yet, I said grimly. Look. Way up ahead, there were two guys in brown uniforms. Maybe they don't know who we are, Marco suggested. They might think we're regular employees. Maybe, but not if they get a good look at us, I pointed. There's a turnoff. Take it. We turned. At the same time, the guards started yelling. The side corridor grew narrow, too narrow for the golf cart. Ditch it. I jumped out. Marco jumped after me. We could hear the guards' footsteps as they ran down the main tunnel. These guys were in better shape than the old man. These guys could run. The corridor ended abruptly. There were two doors, one a little to the left, one a little farther to the right. They were labelled P201 and P203. No help at all. Pick a door, Marco said. I took a deep breath. Door number 1. I opened P201. A blast of fresh air hit me. Sunlight blinded me. I blinked, trying to get my eyes to adjust. The rhinoceros blinked too. Ah! I yelled. Ah! Marco yelled. We jumped back and slammed the door. Wrong door, Marco said. Definitely wrong, I agreed. Hey, you kids, stop right there! The guards were just at the end of the corridor. Gotta try door number 2, I said. Do it! We opened the door and ran through. There were trees all around us, trees and grass. We were in the shade. Sunlight filtered down through the leaves. Just ahead, the bushes gave way to open grass. Where are we? Marco asked. Like I know. We worked our way through some bushes, keeping a careful eye out in all directions. We didn't see any animals, just some birds up in the trees. Hey, there are people, Marco said. He dropped down behind a bush and pointed. There were people lined up behind a railing. They were high up, or else we were low down. I parted the bushes to get a better look. The people were leaning against a railing at the top of a high concrete wall. They couldn't see us because of the bushes, but they were definitely all staring at something. We're definitely in one of the habitats, I said. Those people are looking at whatever is in here with us. I'm just hoping it isn't that rhino. That thing was way too big. How do we get out of here? I don't know. Let's just get away from the door. Those guards will be coming after us any second. But, in the back of my mind, I was thinking, why haven't those guards come after us yet? Marco and I crawled through the bushes and around the bases of the big trees. We reached a corner of the wall, hidden from all the people above. That is an awfully high wall, Marco observed. That's got to be 30 feet high. This is not good. That wall is high for a reason. There's something in here that they don't want to escape. I scanned the wall. There was a steel ladder set into the concrete about 50 yards away. I guess that's the only way out. Let me ask you something, Marco said. Why haven't the guards come after us? I mean, if this was like the deer and the antelope exhibit, they'd come right in, wouldn't they? We have to think, not panic, I said. I'm trying not to think about why the guards didn't come in here. I moved back into the shadows of the bushes. Besides, maybe there's nothing in here at all. I squatted down on my haunches. My butt touched something warm. I had a terrible feeling right at that moment. I looked up and saw Marco. Normally, Marco has kind of a dark, tanned face, but his face was white, and his eyes were very large. Marco, I said, very slowly and very quietly, is there something behind me? He nodded. What is it, Marco? Jake? It's a tiger.